How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to There Can Only Be One, the podcast that puts together the all-star best-of playlists of your favorite bands and artists, and a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Hello to all of our listeners in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and around the world. How are you guys doing? Okay, so there was this whole big talk about, like in movies, there was this whole big talk about like Nepo babies. Happens in music as well, but I don't think the label is necessarily justified. When you take a look at the career-spanning good music that has come out of one Mr. Jakob Dylan, lead singer, founder, the man behind the Wallflowers. And here to join me to go down Wallflower Road, Joseph Whalen is back on the show. Man, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Jason, and I'm happy to be here to talk about the Wallflowers. They are one of those bands that they just give you sort of a nostalgic feeling for the 90s, for, you know, just their music in general sort of has a very nostalgic feel to it. I really love their sound. It's very reminiscent to me of somebody that I love. Blue Rodeo kind of has that, like it has the organs, the keyboard, has all of it. Like I love it. So I'm super happy to be here to talk about Jakob Dylan and the Wallflowers.
And it's funny you mentioned that because surprisingly, they were, for a non-Canadian band, they got a ton of airplay up here and actually did very well up here. The music was always well received, and it really kind of fit into that 90s, just pure rock kind of vibe, but like smooth rock as well. I'm not talking like yacht rock here. I'm talking like just smooth blues influence, like alternative rock.
Yeah, very rootsy, very sort of, there's a lot of great backing instrumentals. There's, sort of the voice of Jakob Dylan that also sort of blends in very nicely and very seamlessly into that sort of genre of music, the bluesy, rootsy type. But then also it has that crossover appeal, like you mentioned. Like their songs perform very well. So quite honestly, it's a very interesting band to look at over the span of what you said was a very long, fruitful career for them.
Yeah, and it makes sense, too, that they were big in Canada. Because you think about some of the bands that were out around that time. And, of course, we've talked about a few of them, right?
Yes.
Sloan, the Northern Pikes, the Tragically Hip. You mentioned Blue Rodeo. Like, they fit perfectly into that slice of the, for lack of a better term, alternative rock pie. I don't know if I'd necessarily call them alternative because they're definitely much more mainstream than that. But there's a lot of good music over these discs.
And some of it took me by surprise, Jason, honestly. Like there's an album where I kind of knew a lot of the bigger hits resided on that one album, but there's a lot there. There's a very deep catalog and there's some great songs on albums that I never really listened to before this. So this is going to be a very interesting road to go down.
Yeah. I will admit, and I don't think it's any surprise when we sit there and say Bringing Down the House is without a doubt their biggest album of their entire career. It was one of those ones that really put them on the map, but then they kept going. And this is one of the situations where, and we've said it before on the show, you listen to an artist a lot during a stretch of time, and then you kind of fall away, but they keep going. Then when you come back and discover that they did keep going, it's a nice little return to that sound that you used to love. But here's what we're going to do. We're about to go through all 7 studio albums of the Wallflowers. As always, we are not doing any live or compilation albums. But that also means that songs that appeared on soundtracks do not qualify. So their cover of Heroes, which was on the Godzilla soundtrack and was Grammy nominated, does not factor into the equation in here. Because right now, I'm sure there are people who are like, Wallflowers, my favorite song is their cover of Heroes. Can't count it. Can't count it. Those are the rules of the show. We live and we die by the rules. But we're going to start with their self-titled debut album, released August 25th, 1992. The band at this point is Jakob Dylan, Rami Jaffe, Toby Miller, Barry Maguire, and Peter Yanowitz. The album hit number 154 in Australia. There were 2 singles on this one. Ashes to Ashes charted the highest, hitting number 156 in Australia. Now, if the name Rami Jaffe sounds familiar, that's because he's also a current member of the Foo Fighters and have also appeared in the Studio 666 movie, of which he was absolutely freaking hilarious in that film. But yeah, if you like that Foo Fighters organ sound and you're just discovering the Wallflowers, there's a reason why you like that organ sound. It's all over this disc. Your thoughts on the disc and what's your pick?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it right there, Jason. I was struck so much by how much sort of richness that the organ provided to this entire album, start to finish. Like I mentioned, like right out of the gate with Shy of the Moon, I was struck by the piano, and then I said it's got that Blue Rodeo quality with the organ, with the keyboard. But you just mentioned, like 100%. Like that's definitely also a factor there as well. It is an incredible disc that honestly I was unfamiliar with from the start. So this was a completely blind sort of turn into this album. And I went with Another One in the Dark because I loved the organ. Everything was built, it felt like, around the organ. It had a great build, a super powerful ensemble performance. The backing vocals during the outro were incredible. I thought this song was just a complete masterpiece, like from start to finish. And there's other ones on there that are similar in that vein, like Hollywood, I really enjoyed. Asleep at the Wheel, I really liked because it got a little bit into a different sort of anchoring sound with that cool little finger-picked riff. Like, there's a lot on there, like start to finish, that I really, really enjoyed. But Another One in the Dark was one that just kind of really just sort of grabbed me. And that was the one that I ended up going with off of this one.
Yeah, it was on my short list for sure, as well as Be Your Own Girl and Ashes to Ashes. And Shy of the Moon was a really good song too. But I'm going with track number 2 off of this one. I'm going with Sugarfoot.
Yep.
Now, again, Rami Jaffe absolutely slays on this, but I need to shout out Barry Maguire on bass, because this is, one of the longer songs on the disc. Actually, it's kind of about that mid-range, because you do have one that's like 9 minutes and 14 seconds on here.
Yeah.
This one sits at 5:28, but this one builds at the end. And Barry Maguire does something I absolutely love, and I actually incorporate a lot into my bass playing as well, is that there's a point where like the vocals are dropping out and the band feels like it's just jamming away, right? And Jaffe is just going nuts on the organ. But Barry Maguire starts doing a lot of like octave slides. He's basically playing Slippy Slide on the bass, and it fills so well, because he could have just sat there and held the groove and like pedaled his way through everything. But no, he added this texture to the bass playing of this. And again, being a bassist, these are some of the things that I kind of latch on to in the songs, because this show is completely and utterly personal take on the songs on the disc. I'm not sitting there and saying Sugarfoot is the best song on this disc. Doesn't matter what you say. No. It's the best song on there for me and my musical tastes and my musical background. There's a lot on this disc to definitely take in. And as a debut, like, I will be completely honest, I didn't know this album existed.
Yeah.
I thought Bringing Down the Horse was actually their debut album.
Yeah. No, me too.
But I was surprised that this existed. And think about it too, this was on Virgin Records. Okay. Then Virgin let them go because of low album sales. Then Interscope picked them up. And then we get to 1996. May 21st of that year, the release of Bringing Down the Horse, produced by T-Bone Burnett. We also have a few member changes on here. Miller, Maguire, and Yanowitz are out. Greg Richling and Michael Ward are now in the band. If you're listening to the song 6th Avenue Heartache, during the chorus, you're also hearing the sounds of Adam Derwitz from the Counting Crows doing backup vocals on that. This album hit number 1 on the Heat Seekers charts, number 4 on the Billboard 200, and number 1 in New Zealand. It is 4 times platinum in the US and gold in Australia. There were 4 singles on this one. One Headlight, of course, hit number 1 in the US and Canada. At the 39th Grammy Awards, 6th Avenue Heartache was nominated for Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals, but they lost to So Much to Say by the Dave Matthews Band. And the song was also nominated for Best Rock Song, but lost to Give Me One Reason by Tracy Chapman. And that song is freaking huge. Like, really huge. But then, the next year at the 40th Grammys, One Headlight won for Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group and won Best Rock Song. So Grammy wins for the Wallflowers on arguably their breakout album. Your thoughts on the disc as a whole?
So this album, I mean, you know, you're talking about 1 and 2, One Headlight and 6th Avenue Heartache. Like, those are songs that I was listening to all the time. I remember hearing 6th Avenue Heartache on an episode of Friends, and then I listened to it on Spotify for like approximately 3 months straight. Like, just did not stop listening to that song because it was like, it's just such a weirdly nostalgic song. Like, it gets you in the headspace of the 90s. The fact that it was on an episode of Friends probably helps with that. But then there's songs like Bleeders right afterwards. It has a great hook. The drumming's on point. Three Marlenas, really interesting song. The Difference. Holy cow, The Difference. That, like, it just completely changes things up, just switches it all. The drums are incredible. Man, oh man, there's a lot on this disc. I Wish I Felt Nothing as the closer. I mean, holy cow, I Wish I Felt Nothing. It's the set of lyrics in that hook will break you right in half. It is just unbelievable. But I did go with One Headlight because if you're a fan of Parks and Recreation, the last episode that Rob Lowe is in, his effortlessly positive character is trying to convince people that he can dance to One Headlight. And the image of him dancing to One Headlight is ingrained in my brain forever. On top of the fact that it's just an amazing song. And, you know, it's I've spent many a solo drive just singing along to this song. It is right there in my register. I don't have to strain my voice. I don't have I can't really go to the falsetto, Jason. I know that you mentioned that you were able to do that in car drives. Never was I could never quite do that, but One Headlight is right there. And no, it's just an incredible tune. I mean, it's just start to finish. It grabs you. It keeps you right there. You're locked in. I mean, it's just an incredible song. And this disc, start to finish, I mean, I was completely unaware of just how many really good songs were on this disc.
Oh yeah. And it's really, it's hard to discount the impact the One Headlight had on really the music scene as a whole at the time. And having played this song live, it's a fun song. It's absolutely fun song. And it's just that little bass groove kind of thing that carries it all the way through. For the record, Matt Chamberlain is actually a fantastic drummer. I love his work with Tori Amos. It is so good. I had 6th Avenue Heartache, The Difference, Bleeders, and Invisible City on my short list. But yeah, One Headlight, it is impossible to deny. Like, this song is as catchy as The Common Cold, as I'm sure Joseph knows about.
Yeah, no, I know that all too well right now.
But yeah, like, this is also, let's be honest, this is probably the song that most people originally think of the minute the name The Wallflowers comes up. It was a seismic shift, and it was everywhere, especially up here in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, as a Newfoundlander, I have to bring up, it was on an episode of Republic of Doyle. Which is also a part of why I love the song so much. So that's a little added tidbit to your point about how much it was present in even in Canada.
I just MailChimped my marketing.
You MailChimped your what?
I MailChimped my marketing with AI to create an effective marketing campaign in minutes.
No, MailChimp and Way.
Yes, MailChimp and Way. Now I can hyper-personalize my campaigns across email and SMS.
You can do all that with MailChimp?
What did I just MailChimp and say?
MailChimp your marketing with the #1 AI-powered email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp. #1 based on publicly available data on competitors' customers. Plans vary. SMS available as add-ons. Visit MailChimp.com.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
We now move on to the follow-up to that album, Breach, released October 10th, 2000. We have a member addition at this point. Mario Callier is now on drums. The album hit number 13 on the Billboard 200 and number 6 in Canada, which just goes to show that Canada loves the Wallflowers better. The album is gold in the US and Canada. There were 2 singles off of this one. Sleepwalker hit number 1 on the adult alternative airplay charts and number 73 on the Billboard 100 and number 6 in Canada, which just goes to show that Canada loves the Wallflowers more than the States. All right, off of Breach. I mean, it has to be damn near impossible to enter the studio after such a colossal album like Bringing Down the Horse and going, oh, yeah, now we have to do a follow-up. So there's a lot of pressure on this disc. How was the follow-up for you?
You know, I enjoyed it actually. I was quite fond of it. I think there's some really good tunes on here. I think, man, Murder 101, the drums on that, like it's an absolute banger, and it's a quick hitter by comparison to a lot of their catalog at 2:30. But you get everything you want packed into that time, and it's a little lower on the disc. But Letters from the Wasteland, really cool, nice build to the hook, the ominous guitar riffs, and a great closing guitar part. That was a great opener for me. But I went with Some Flowers Bloom Dead. And I really enjoyed that song. And the lyrics, now in another world I could learn to forget. But till then I'm here making room for new regrets. Like, holy crap, man. That is a great set of lyrics. Like the thing that I feel like I haven't necessarily gotten into so far is the fact that Jakob Dylan's lyrics, man, they are poetry. Like they are absolute poetry. And I think that this song to me was one that sort of encapsulated that. Whereas like, you know, you might not be getting necessarily like, it's hard to follow up on Bringing Down the Horse. Like that was just such a top to bottom, absolute banger of an album. So even if you don't have that necessarily from the standpoint of even the songs that aren't the big singles or the big hits off of it aren't necessarily gravitating you like the way that like Three Marlenas or Bleeders were in Bringing Down the Horse. Even if you don't have that on this record, you still have songs that have those lyrics and have that power and that depth. And I think that Jakob Dylan as a lyricist is just, he's incredible. And honestly, I think that Breach is some of his greatest work is on there. I've Been Delivered. I love the banjo in that. And yeah, but otherwise, I would just say that lyrics wise, this album is fantastic.
It's interesting you say that some of Jakob Dylan's best stuff. There's a quote from him in an interview with Uprocks. It said, while it was a difficult record to make, it felt that it was some of his best songwriting. And you're not wrong, right? But I can imagine, like, there has to be that kind of trepidation from everyone going into that studio going, how do we follow up a quadruple platinum album? You know, after, you know, an album that basically they went through a label change because they got dropped because they weren't selling enough. And then all of a sudden they sell the everything. Also, Virgin, what were you doing? Really?
Yeah, they live to regret that one, I think.
Exactly. I had Letters from the Wasteland and Sleepwalker on my short list, but I'm going with Some Flowers Bloom Dead.
Yeah.
Like, admittedly, listening to this album is not Bringing Down the Horse. No. It's not. And it wasn't going to be. I don't think it could be. But you're right. There are some good stuff in here. And this is one of those songs that's it's not a get up and dance song. It's not. But you will bop in your chair, right? This is a road trip going on to a campsite kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of songs like that throughout the discography where it's like, this is road trip music. It's absolutely road trip music. You know, I know when I'm playing a show, you know, sometimes there's dancers and it's all good depending on, you know, which band I'm playing with. But sometimes there's just people just sitting down, enjoying the music, tapping their feet, you know, tapping their hands on the table, maybe singing along, you get the groove going. And you're like, even though you're not up and dancing, we got you.
Yeah.
We got you and you're into it. The Wallflowers, especially on this disc, they get you. They absolutely get you, even if you're not up and dancing and bouncing around.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. And I think that, yeah, like from the very beginning of this, like there's songs that have great builds to the hooks. There's songs that are cool and like fun rockers, like Sleepwalker's a great rocker. Like I enjoyed that one too. It is one of those things though, that like, yeah, as you mentioned, it is so difficult to try and follow up on an album like Bringing Down the Horse that it felt inevitable that there would be a little bit of a shift and they would kind of go into a different sort of direction. And I don't necessarily know that maybe a different direction's the wrong way to put it, because it is still very much rooted in what they are. But at the same time, yeah, like you said, there's not necessarily that sort of mainstream appeal to some of these songs on this album, but it doesn't make it any less.
Yeah. And also consider the musical landscape, right? 1996, you know, they lost to Dave Matthews Band on that first Grammys with the Sixth Avenue Heartache, which makes sense, right? Because Dave Matthews was huge at the time. But it goes to show the kind of vibe that they were dealing with in the grander music picture. Also the same year, Tracy Chapman wins, all good, right? No problem. 2000 is a much different musical vibe, right? Whereas before, a band like Dave Matthews Band or an artist like Tracy Chapman is going to get a lot of the attention, and Wallflowers definitely fits into that pocket. Now it's like you're dealing with Limp Bizkit and Korn, and the Wallflowers are not Limp Bizkit and Korn, you know, or it's gone the other way and you're dealing with the Britney Spearses of the world, right? That's your musical landscape in 2000. This song is not that, but that doesn't mean it's not good. It just means it's not popular.
Yeah.
Red Letter Days, released November 5th, 2002. We have a member subtraction at this point. Michael Ward is now out of the band. The album hit number 32 on the Billboard 200. There are two singles. When You're on Top hit number 1 on the Adult Alternative Airplay charts. And for dear listeners, this is the one album that is actually not on Spotify. There are some songs that are available, but if you're on our website and the page for this episode, this is the album where you may not have a song from it in the list, unless it's one of those ones that happened to appear on a Wallflowers compilation album. So if you're sitting there going, wait, there's only 6 songs in this playlist, now you know why.
Yeah.
Red Letter Days. It's a good album, though. It's a really good album.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It right from the start, When You're on Top, it felt different. It felt different, this song. Like the sound, the vocals seem like cleaner or less distorted. I'm not entirely sure what it was that I was hearing, but it just felt different. Like the recording process, I'm not sure what differed in terms of what they might have been doing at that point in time, but it felt different.
So off this disc, what'd you go with?
I went with How Good It Can Get, because it's a very interesting thing with the Wallflowers, because I talked about sort of the poetic lyric writing of Jakob Dylan, and that sort of lends itself to writing songs that are sort of more nostalgic and have this sort of longing or this yearning for something that was lost, whether it was a lost love or whatever else it might be. This song had this sort of optimistic feel to it that really there's not many songs in their catalog, at least up till this point, that you have that sort of, and it's right there in the title, How Good It Can Get. Like, this was a song that sort of differed in a way that I was actually like, you know what? I like the way that this is sort of trending, because ultimately when I go to the Wallflowers, I'm expecting a specific type of song. And when I don't get it, and especially this creeped up later in their catalog, when I don't get exactly what I'm expecting from the Wallflowers, then I'm kind of like, this isn't really what I'm here for. But this was different in a way that it was like, it's just the changing of sort of the scope or the sort of the feeling that you get from the song. And I loved it. This feels a little bit closer to their sound. Like, you know, the first song, like I said, was a little bit different in the way that it sounded. It just kind of, you could tell that There was something a little bit different about the vocals, or at least I could. And I really liked the hook. And it feels like, as I said, that there's this nostalgia in their lyrics and in the way that they compose songs that it wasn't really there in this song. And I kind of appreciated that. It kind of felt like a little bit of a turn at Albuquerque. And I was here for it. I enjoyed it. And yeah, that was my pick off of this one. I enjoyed this album, but I think this song stood out to me sort of as a bit of a different vibe, and I liked it.
You pointed out the fact that, it's what you're expecting out of a Wallflower song. And we've talked about this before, where you hear the band name and you're like, oh, and this is the song that you associate with that band. So then you're almost kind of looking for songs that kind of fit that mold. And it's again, that's kind of a personal preference. And I look at the Wallflowers and you're looking at stuff where it's like, okay, I'm looking for more like songs like One Headlight, a song like How Good It Can Get, which are kind of boppier, kind of a little bit more, again, that road trip kind of stuff. But then there's also like the more dialed back ones, right? The ones where it's not a beer you're drinking, it's like a warm cognac kind of thing. There are some songs like that. I had When You're on Top, How Good It Can Get, If You Never Got Sick, and Feels Like Summer Again on my short list. But I ended up going with Closer to You. Now, when we were talking about the first album, the self-titled, and I was talking about Sugarfoot and what Barry Maguire did on bass on that, Greg Richling on bass for a number of albums. Jakob Dylan does really good songwriting. He does. But to me, the heart of the sound lives with Rami Jaffe and Greg Richling.
Yeah.
The combination of the two of them together, that bass and keys combo, it's like a blanket that just kind of hugs you. It's a weird way of kind of describing it, but it's just like, it's such a great combination of what they both bring to the table, which is why, as we get later on, at that point, Rami Jaffe is with the Foo Fighters and Greg Richling's no longer on bass. The songs still stand out, and that's full credit to Jakob Dylan, but this batch of albums with that Richling Jaffe combo is fantastic. Closer to You, it just sits in that pocket. It absolutely sits in that pocket, and this is why it completely connected to me. I know Closer to You is actually on one of those compilations, so this will be in the playlist. So yeah, definitely have a listen, because if you didn't know that this album existed, like I didn't know it existed, it's a great way to kind of get back into it.
Yeah, and honestly, just to tag your point there about Rami Jaffe and the bass and the keyboard and the organ and the way that it all sort of, I think that the best part of, without that sound, and I know that then obviously they would go on to replace and find somebody that would play the organ, keyboard, the bass, and they'd move forward. That anchors a lot of what they do. And I think that Jakob Dylan's vocals and his songwriting complements that perfectly. And I think without that sound, it would fall flat. And so that's where it has to have that sort of, it's the yin and yang kind of thing, right? Like it needs both to work. And I think that the great thing about the Wallflowers is that their songs do feel based and anchored by that sound underneath. The keyboards, the organs, they're always the first thing that you notice about a Wallflower song. And for you, the bass isn't necessarily something that really jumps off the page to me when I'm just listening, because it's obviously it's the underneath part of it's just the groove kind of thing. And I get that. And I appreciate the groove of the song too. I don't want to give you the impression, Jason, that I don't appreciate the grooves, but at the same time, it's the organ that really sort of grabs you right out of the chute. And then in comes Jakob Dylan with the crooning, right? And so it doesn't necessarily one without the other. You need both for it to work, and it does perfectly and seamlessly. And I think, as you pointed out, best when it was Rami Jaffe and sort of that
Greg
initial
Richling,
and yes, exactly, his name was escaping me. I appreciate that, but yes, so it was better when it was that initial sort of grouping of the Wallflowers.
I could easily, and I would, if this ever existed, just take my money. Picture just Rami Jaffe on a piano as opposed to an organ, and Greg Richling on bass and Jakob Dylan doing almost like a jazz trio kind of thing. That would just literally take all my money at that point. Rebel Sweetheart, released May 25th, 2005. We have a member change at this point. Mario Callier is now out on drums, replaced by Fred Eltringham. The album hit number 40 on the Billboard 200. There were 2 singles off of this one. The Beautiful Side of Somewhere hit number 4 on the AAA charts. So again, another album, another member change, but yet still that same vibe. Your thoughts on this disc?
Well, to be honest, a couple of songs that I knew of theirs beyond Bringing Down the Horse, because honestly, Bringing Down the Horse was one of the only albums that I was aware of from the Wallflowers. I didn't really take time to listen to much of their other albums or their other catalog. There are a couple songs on here that I was aware of, and I knew that were going to be sort of right at the top of my list for this album. And so I was very much excited to listen to the entire package. And yeah, like I enjoyed it. There's songs on here that I was surprised by. I thought that were quite good, but it was again anchored in the songs that I was already sort of familiar with.
So what did you go with?
I went with God Says Nothing Back because man, oh man, that song, it puts me in a trance, honestly, like listening to it. It is, I think, an absolute masterpiece. I think, man, the way that it goes from, so God says nothing back, but I told you so. Time says nothing back, but I told you so. Love says nothing back. Death in the end says nothing back, but I told you so. Again, it goes back to this idea of just the poetry of his lyrics, right? Like it just shifts one to the other kind of thing. And that acoustic guitar part between love and death, unbelievable. Like this song is just poetry, pure and simple. The line, open up these graves, let these bodies talk at the end, just chills, man. Absolute chills. And then, Days of Wonder is a great way to kick off this album. I think the hook is fantastic. Everything about the song works. It's got great backing vocals on the hook. The Passenger's a solid tune. Here He Comes is a good tune again. But for me, I always knew what my choice on this album was going to be, and it was God Says Nothing Back, because sweet Jesus, this is a good song. It's fantastic. It's everything that I come to expect from a Wallflowers song, to be honest.
Actually, the whole album as a whole. Now, I mentioned that Bringing Down the Horse was produced by T-Bone Burnett, and you really can't go wrong with T-Bone Burnett, in the booth, helping to craft the sound of the album. This album is produced by Brendan O'Brien, one of the biggest names in like that Seattle era.
Yeah,
that there's a reason why the 90s sounded so good. Brendan O'Brien is one of those top producers from that time. So this is the first disc where Brendan O'Brien is working with the Wallflowers, and it comes across in a lot of these songs. And you're absolutely right. God Says Nothing Back is also my pick on this.
Here we go.
Literally, the lush vocal landscape. It's almost majestic.
Yep.
How this song just, it's so full. It's absolutely so full. It's a slow, deliberate, it's a mood.
Yes.
It's an absolute mood. This is that warm glass of cognac for sure.
Yep.
Right? Or brandy.
Yeah. I mean, it just, and I remember listening to this song a lot during like the fall, like the autumn of the year, when I would be like on my way to work and just have this song on, and it fits that vibe. I feel like so perfectly. Like it's kind of has that sort of fall, like the leaves changing over kind of vibe to it. And then everything about it, like, again, it's just, as you said, it is majestic. That's a perfect word for it.
I love the fact you mentioned it's fall. Like,
yeah,
the Wallflowers feel like an autumn band.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, absolutely.
And that warm glass, that cognac is part of that too. That fits the vibe entirely.
See, this is what we just need to do. We need to make another podcast where we just pair songs with booze.
Exactly. I think, Jason, that's a winner. I think that's we'll circle back to this. Like, we're obviously, like, I've got a bit of a head cold right now, so like, my thoughts aren't as clear as they usually are, but that seems like a great idea to me.
Oh my God. That's the thing. Like when you go to the we're in Ontario, when you go to the LCBO, right, which is where you get your good alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And occasionally, if you're lucky, they'll actually put on the sticker beside the beer or whatever you drink, pairs well with, right? Pairs well with meat, pairs well with fish. They should be like, this cognac pairs well with the Wallflowers.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I need to know. Listen, I need to know what is going to fit the vibe. That's what I need. I don't need, listen, I'll drink anything with any food. It doesn't matter. Let me know what it is going to be that I'm going to listen to, that it's going to make that experience better.
As long as we don't have to drink the drink while we're actually talking about the song, because by the time we get through a full album, we're going to be slurring everything.
Could be no worse than how I sound now, Jason.
Which we're now 5 albums through, so clearly Joseph is 5 drinks through.
I'm 5 drinks through.
At this point, everything pairs well with NyQuil. Glad All Over, released October 9th, 2012. We have yet another member change on this. Fred Eltringham is now out with Jack Irons on drums, and we've added Stuart Mathis on lead guitar. The album hit number 17 on the top Tastemaker album charts. See, there you go, Tastemaker, right? That should just be the name of the podcast right there.
I think we've got it.
Yeah. Number 48 on the Billboard 200. There were 2 singles off of this one. Reboot the Mission hit number 2 on the AAA charts. So we had to wait 7 years for this disc, and I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we kind of talked about this with Northern Pikes, right? Where it's like you get those long hiatuses in between. And then when you come back, you're kind of like, okay, what's the sound going to be? Like, how's this going to differ at all? And I mean, honestly, there's a little bit, like, I think it kind of opens up in a way that it feels a little bit different, kind of in the same way that Breach felt a little bit different out of the chute. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, this is a little bit different sounding, but by the end of it all, it's still the Wallflowers. So you're still kind of in that same vein.
It's interesting because in an interview with Uproxx, Jacob had mentioned that, quote unquote, it was a contentious record to make. And he said it kind of felt disjointed. Simply put, I don't think the band was getting together that great when we got back together, so you can hear it in the record. It's interesting because this is the album with the shortest short list of this entire run so far. I have 1 song on the short list.
Yeah.
And that's Misfits and Lovers. I did have First One in the Car as my pick off of this disc. This is, again, one of those open roof, like, top down road trip, on the way to a good time, getting back to the base.
Yeah.
Getting back to the base, right? Mr. Greg Richling, who is very quickly becoming one of my favorite bassists at this point. Just some sustaining notes. Like, again, you don't have to pedal through everything. Not all rock is pedal the E string. Greg Richling adds like a lush bass bed for this, like a lovely cushion of bass just to sleep on, right?
Yeah.
But the guitars, the swelling guitars in this as well, like, it just delivers everything so well.
Yeah, no, I think that was one that I had on my, First One in the Car was one I had on my short list as well. Misfits and Lovers, you said, was also a great tune. Like, yeah, no, but that is the part of the Wallflowers that I feel like is, again, just so important, is that sort of underneath the surface of all of it is where you find sort of the secret sauce of the Wallflowers. They need that in order for it to have that sort of that richness. Like I described it on the first album as sort of the organ gives it the richness that you really love that sound, and you look for that sound. And I mean, the bass is right there too. It's everything that contributes to this sound is, that's part of the secret sauce that makes it the Wallflowers.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, Jason, I went with It Won't Be Long Till We're Not Wrong Anymore, because that to me felt like what I was waiting for the album, where, again, as I said, like later on, as we get further into the catalog, I was trying to just listen for ones that is just like, this is kind of what I'm expecting from the Wallflowers. This is what I want to hear from the Wallflowers. And that's what it was. I had to wait till the third last song, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is what I wanted. This is where I was kind of hoping for this to get to. It seemed like, as you pointed out with that Jakob Dylan quote, that, like there was a lot more sort of, it seemed like, to me at least, there was a lot more sort of experimenting with different sounds, with a different sort of a feel to the entirety of this record. And, that's great, because obviously that's what pushes these bands forward and gives them the longevity. And I mean, the Wallflowers have had a very, very long and fruitful, successful career. So that's what sort of keeps them evolving and keeps them around in sort of the sort of social consciousness, pop culture. Like, that's what keeps bands around with that type of longevity. But at the same time, you'd love to hear them in the sort of environment and with the type of vibe, the type of feel of songs that you come to expect. And It Won't Be Long Till We're Not Wrong Anymore is that for me. That was what I was waiting for. to hear sort of a Wallflowers-esque song. Love is a Country, I felt, was more of a return to that as well. Slight tweaks to the chorus kind of reminded me of the God Says Nothing Back, the way that it just sort of change out a word here or there kind of thing. I enjoy that. That's a nice little return. But yeah, overall, it was a fine album. But I think I kind of had to wait a little bit longer to get into the sort of what I want to hear from the Wallflowers, which is entirely subjective.
Absolutely. We get to the last album on our list, Exit Wounds, released July 9th, 2021. The entire band is pretty much changed at this point.
Yeah.
Mark Stepro is now playing drums. Why Not Jansfeld is on bass. Val McCallum on guitar. So basically the band is Jakob Dylan and whoever he brings with him now. 9 years we waited for this disc. 9 years. Hit number 183 on the Billboard 200. Number 3 on the top album sales. Number 4 on the folk album charts. There was one single, Roots and Wings, hit number 6 on the AAA charts. Before we recorded the show, before we hit the record button, I was telling Joseph that as I'm doing research, there's a name that pops up and I completely fanboyed because one of my favorite singer-songwriters is the producer on this album. That's Butch Walker.
Okay.
Jakob Dylan and Butch Walker is a literal match made in heaven. Right? Because if you've listened to Butch Walker stuff, not necessarily the stuff he did with Marvelous 3, because that's more of a, a straight rock kind of outfit, but his solo stuff, like you could put a Jakob Dylan Wallflower song on side A of a single and a Butch Walker song on side B, and the two would probably fit together very well. This would be a tour I would love to see. Like just get Jakob Dylan out there with Butch Walker, same band, and just do songs from their catalogs. That would be, I would line up. I would line up for that show.
Yeah. Hey, maybe it's not too far off in the, maybe it's on the horizon. This is fairly recent.
Well, I mean, Wallflowers are on tour as we record this with ZZ Top. So that's going to be a fantastic show. But your thoughts on Exit Wounds as an album?
It kind of a little bit tougher for me, a little bit of more of a slog to get through for me. It was kind of one of those albums where it's like, yeah, it's the latest album from a band that you like. And, there's songs on there that I enjoyed and there were songs on there that I love the vibe. I mean, Maybe Your Heart's Not In It No More, I felt had good backing vocals. I enjoyed the Shelby Lynn on backing vocals and on vocals for parts of songs too. That my pick is Darlin' Hold On because I thought her vocals on that were excellent. And as much as you come to really love and appreciate Jakob Dylan and his vocals, it's kind of nice that you get a different, like that was almost the thing of, 6th Avenue Heartache where you had Adam Duritz in there too.
Yeah.
You kind of like to get a different voice in there, and it complements Jakob because Jakob, as we kind of have alluded to, more of like a crooner, more on like that one sort of register, or like he'll, escalate a little bit, but not so much. When you get a nice voice like Shelby Lynn, who really, really complimented him, I thought that was maybe the best part of the album for me, was just kind of hearing that sort of, that harmony and that sort of, that backing vocals. I thought they were incredible. Who's That Man Walking Around My Garden? That one was interesting. I like this. Cool guitars, very strong ensemble performance. But yeah, all of it sort of all circled back to the harmonies for me. I think that was the shining point of the album for me, was just the harmonies. And I think that was sort of where I stood with this album. I enjoyed it for what it was. And I think, as we pointed out on the Sloan episode, the first one that I did, this one was released in 2021. Awesome that there was new music coming around during COVID time when we just didn't have anything to look forward to. So this was a really cool way of, you get more after 9 years, after quite a hiatus, you get more in a time when we really kind of needed it.
Well, it's interesting because apparently the production of this album was done before the pandemic actually started. Okay. So they held back on releasing it because obviously why release an album, when everyone's not going to go out and buy it. So I get it. But it's funny you mentioned that you kind of slogged through this album a little bit. This is my second favorite Wallflowers album.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Maybe it's Butch Walker on in the production, also doing all the keyboards for this as well. But holy freaking crap. The short list here: Roots and Wings, Dive Bar in My Heart, Move the River, Maybe Your Heart's Not In It No More. Like, the whole album just hooked me.
Yeah.
But then you get to I'll Let You Down But Will Not Give You Up. This is where Shelby Lynn is at her finest on this. The keys, the org. This song is church. This song is a Sunday service. Because it feels so rich and so full. And you literally, like, it's a vibe. It's vibe all the way through. But then it's almost like the mood shifts when you get to the chorus. It's like, okay, we're dark. And then we're hopeful, and then we're dark, and then we're hopeful. And it's like, they're able to juggle that balance, kind of like the title itself. I'll let you down, but I will not give you up, right? You have a dual vibe going on in this song that I don't know many artists could actually pull that off.
Yeah. You know what, Jason? Listen, I think you've convinced me. I have to give this a second try, because I don't know. Maybe it was that I was at the end of the line of like this, of these songs and these records, and I was just kind of like dismissing all of it. Maybe I wasn't in it with an open brain. Maybe it was my cold. Maybe it was my head cold. That's also a possibility.
Well,
so
it may have initially let you down, but don't give up on it. All right. So before we go, Joseph, please remind our listeners what your picks are from the 7-album run of the Wallflowers discography. And if there can only be one Wallflowers song from the songs that you have picked, what's it going to be?
Yeah, so off the self-titled The Wallflowers, I went with Another One in the Dark. Out of Bringing Down the Horse, I went with One Headlight. Breach, I went with Some Flowers Bloom Dead. Red Letter Days, I went with How Good It Can Get. Rebel Sweetheart, I went with God Says Nothing Back. Glad All Over, It Won't Be Long Till We're Not Wrong Anymore. And off of Exit Wounds, I went with Darlin' Hold On. And, you know, Jason, we always talk about it where you kind of go into one of these episodes with an idea of what song it is that you're going to pick and where you're going to go. And, you know, the thought was, you know, Bringing Down the Horse was probably going to be the album that produced the song that I was going to ultimately go with. One Headlight. You can't go wrong with One Headlight. It is literally, it's just transcendent. It is an amazing song, start to finish. I went with God Says Nothing Back because, man, I just can't shake it. It is one of those songs that, as you said, it is just a vibe. And you have also in previous episodes made the comment of it feels cinematic. It feels like you're in a movie. This song feels cinematic. And the line that I omitted from when I talked about it, or the set of lyrics that I omitted when I was talking about it the first time around, was last night I could not sleep at all. I hallucinated you were in my arms. To be in your heart, I failed my own. Love says nothing back, but I told you so. Like, good God, man. Like, and that's in every verse, in every set, whether it was God says nothing back, time says nothing back, love, or death says nothing back. It's there. Like, the poetry is just unbelievable. And I think that to me is where, yeah, like we talked about the keyboards and the organs and all of it. And that is the base of everything that the Wallflowers do. But the poetry in this song is what sets it to a level that I love it. It's a great vibe. It's cinematic. And yeah, it's my pick. And I thought it was going to be One Headlight, and it kind of took me by surprise.
All right. For me, off the self-titled debut album, I went with Sugarfoot. From Bringing Down the Horse, I went with One Headlight. From Breach, I went with Some Flowers Bloom Dead. From Red Letter Days, I went with Closer to You. From Rebel Sweetheart, I went with God Says Nothing Back as well. Glad All Over, I went with First One in the Car. And Exit Wounds, I went with I'll Let You Down, but Will Not Give You Up. And yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as you. I figured it was going to be a song off of Bringing Down the Horse, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was going to be 6th Avenue Heartache, or whether it was going to be One Headlight, or whether it was going to be The Difference. Because, I mean, that album is front to back.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But it's not. It's
All
I'll
right.
Let You Down, but Will Not Give You Up off of Exit Wounds.
Okay.
Here you have a band that is, do the math, over 30 years into their career, and on their most recent disc is my favorite song of their entire discography. The breadth of work that Jakob Dylan has put into songwriting. I would go so far as to say, and then maybe this is a bold statement here, Jakob Dylan songwriting superior to Bob Dylan songwriting.
Yeah, I listen, I'm not going to fight you on that. I will not fight you on that at all. That is, I completely and wholeheartedly am with you on that page.
Now, I mean, that's not to take away from what Bob Dylan has done, but holy crap, this is more in my wheelhouse. I think it's probably the more accurate way of putting it. And the fact that he teams up with Butch Walker on this last album, like that's just musical ear candy for me. So yeah, my bias is on my sleeve, but this entire show is bias.
Well, it's yeah. What else is it? It's bias. It is what the vibe is, that's just that's how we go about it. Right. Like, I mean, it's great that it was, honestly, like, to say that we both had songs that weren't off of Bringing Down the Horse kind of speaks to that. Yeah, this is entirely subjective and personal. It's not anything to do with, necessarily the biggest hits of a band. It's all about what you feel. And so the fact that you had this connection to this particular album, their latest album, I think that makes it even more interesting, honestly, the fact that it's their most recent release.
Yeah. And I am actually going to see that ZZ Top tour. So
hell yeah.
I'm begging for this song to be on the set list. So, if you're listening to this show, Jacob, I ask for one song and one song only on the set list. Help me out. Help a podcaster out here. Joseph, thank you so much for this. Please let our listeners know what you're up to and where they can find you out there on the interwebs.
Well, you can find me on the interwebs at Joseph Whalen 17 on Instagram and Joe Whalen 19 on X, though not particularly active on X these days. That's maybe when sports kind of starts back up again, will pique my interest a little bit. I know that the Stanley Cup Finals and NBA Finals are ongoing. I just don't have anything to say about them is all. So anyways, that's a long diatribe you didn't ask for, Jason. But in any case, that's where you can find me on the interwebs.
Yeah, we're going to have to come up with an idea of how to do that podcast pairing with booze. That's just gold right there.
Gotta kill time and kill some brain cells,
I was about to say, if we're going to start talking alcohol, we are going to be killing brain cells. Joseph, thank you so much for this. And to you, our dear listeners, well, you guys know the drill. If there is an artist that you want us to cover on There Could Only Be One, or an album that you want us to cover on Spin Shuffle Skip, hit us up on social media at Only One Cast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our merch section, because we have some really cool stuff from all of our shows that you can purchase and help out the show. Until next time, he's Joseph, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is There Can Only Be One, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.